Hello everybody and welcome back to a different kind of Enter the Gungeon video today. Today we're going to be looking at and analyzing the trailer and announcements for the newly revealed Gungeon spin-off coming to Apple Arcade, Exit the Gungeon. First we'll go over the brief article on devolverdigital.com on the game. Exit the Gungeon is a bullet hell dungeon climber immediately following the adventures of the misfit Gungeoneers and their journey for personal absolution in Enter the Gungeon. The Gungeon has become a paradox and is collapsing. Armed with an ever-changing weapon, an insatiable need to loot, and the trusty dodge roll, each of our heroes must ascend and escape via their own unique route of increasingly perilous elevators. Battle against the last and most bitter of the Gundead at a frantic pace, slowing down just long enough to chat with some familiar faces and a few new ones. Shifting rooms, enemies, bosses, bizarre weapons, and all items combine to ensure that no two attempts at Exit the Gungeon are the same. Also, you can wear hats. Everybody loves hats and spin-offs, which this game is, of Enter the Gungeon. Exit the Gungeon is developed by Dodge Roll and Single Core Games and will debut on Apple Arcade soon. So it is not a true sequel. It is indeed a spin-off, and we learn a couple things from that we'll take into our analysis. Right off the bat, we see the Sorceress appear and cast a spell, which we can gather is the Blessing of the Gun, using evidence from the article on devolverdigital.com, and evidence from later in the video. The first clip shows a lot of the core gameplay immediately, so there'll be a lot of extra things to cover. It shows the game is no longer top-down and now has platforming elements. You are holding out on an elevator while enemies continue to spawn, and the character does appear to have a jump with invincibility frames, and they also appear to have a second animation which could be for a dodge roll, but it's unclear if they're different moves. There are a few drops that show a shield and some casings, which Junior is hilariously jetpacking around to pick up. These imply the obvious being that the health system is likely the same and that the shop will return. The gun, called the Bullet, makes its return, proving to be potentially more valuable in a platforming environment to hit enemies through the platforms. There are also returning enemies such as the Bulletkin, Red Shotgunkin, and the Blobulon. There also is a new enemy that appears to be a different version of the Bullat, featuring kind of like a Bulletkin style face. The tile set seems to share the most resemblance with the Hollow. However, the enemies seem to be some of the more basic ones. It could be that since we are exiting the Gungeon, we potentially could be clearing it in reverse from the bottom to the top. And in the next clip, it appears that it takes place in the Black Powder Mines, potentially the Forge. It also shows the return of the Muzzle Wisp and Gun Nut enemies and the Wind-Up Gun. This also shows the Cultist as a playable character without needing co-op, which is a huge win for friendless Cultist fans. Next up, we see what appears to be a tile set based around the first Gungeon floor, the Keep of the Lead Lord, with platforms being held up by popping balloons, with knives coming from the ceiling to pop them, to add an additional challenge, possibly making it more likely that we're scaling the Gungeon in reverse, as this does seem to be more difficult than some of the other screens. The scene shows confirmation that the Blessing of the Gun is in effect, indeed, as it switches the Elephant Gun to the Shotgun Full of Hate, showing that those are both also returning. For enemies, we see the Gigi return, as well as another variation on the Bullat that looks like a Shotgunkin. The normal Bullats don't seem to appear in the game, so I'm taking it that these may in fact be the replacement for them. In the next clip, we see a tile set here that is a little more unclear. Could possibly be the Gungeon proper due to the floating Lich Skulls. It might also be a toned-down version of Bullet Hell. On this screen, the starter weapon is shown for the first time, possibly implying that it's an early level and the gun has not shifted yet with Blessing the Gun. The player also seems to be required to press one of two buttons on the bottom platform to move left and right to avoid the floating skulls, possibly avoid taking damage, to make it kind of an interactive stage. In the next scene, we see our first screen that is not in motion with a closed door that appears to be close to a traditional Enter the Gungeon room. We also see the return of the Hollow Point and a stationary version of the Skeleton. The following clip takes us back to what may be the Hollow and showcases the first boss fight in the video. The boss appears to be a combination of the Cannon Balrog and the Beholster, though it could also just be the Cannon Balrog with a chipped mask or something, as in the small amount of time we see the clip, we don't see any moves from the Beholster, but it appears to be kind of like a mutation combination. The Hunter is also wielding the Stinger, and the shots are bouncing off the boss, potentially confirming Angry Bullets, which is surprisingly the first evidence of passives. The following clip is a return to the more traditional room layouts, sporting a new moving saw blade. This clip mostly just showcases the return of the Lead Maiden, the King Bullet, and the mailbox weapon. Not a lot here. The next clip shows quite a bit more. It seems to share a tile set with the earlier horizontally scrolling level, potentially placing it in the Black Powder Mines or the Forge. This time it is scrolling vertically, could also mean that this is a continuation of the same level or maybe a variant. The article did say that each character does have their own unique path. This could be further showcasing of that, or it could just be nothing. This version also does contain sentient platforms that are wielding guns, firing shots at the player. The player then appears to take a hit, likely setting off the blank effect of a shield breaking. This does also freeze all of the enemies in the room, mostly confirming Frost Amulet and the return of passives. We also get to see our first blank drop, confirming that those will be present as well. Hallelujah. We get a very brief scene that shows another static room with a sniper shell, det, and a slightly different looking Gunzuki pacing a platform on the bottom. The following clip shows us another boss fight in the Keep of the Lead Lord against the Chancellor. It appears he has taken the throne after the fall of the Bullet King. It also shows the return of Blasphemy and the Bullet as a playable character, though it's unclear if he needs to be unlocked or not. Briefly, the player crashes into Bellows Shop, where it appears that he is selling 2 heart pieces. We really don't get to see much else, but it is absolute confirmation that Bellow does have a shop in the game. The next clip showcases the robot wielding the Siren in another static room with what seems to be a hollow-like tile set, another different frozen version of the static rooms from before. The final moments of gameplay show the Sorceress casting a spell at an empty throne of the Chancellor, potentially implying it could be the last boss, or at least the last boss in the same way the Dragon was in Enter the Gungeon. This would lend further to the evidence of clearing the Gungeon in reverse. In the final moments of the trailer, before the logo appears, we get a great glimpse at what almost seems to be a mutated combination of the Amoconda and the Dragon, surely sending its shivers down right its spine. Dragon Snake bad. Finally, there are 2 screenshots of note from devolverdigital.com which showcase a couple things. First one being this, which shows the hunter wielding the particulator, which shoots bullets that have a different particle effect trail. This is more than likely just a hardware limitation, but it could also be a passive of some sort. Next, we get a more juicy screenshot, which gives us a great view of the character select hub, which gives us a view of all the playable characters, being the 4 main Gungeoneers and the original unlockable 2, Robot and Bullet. There does also appear to be 2 slots on top, potentially for Gunslinger and Paradox, though they are not unlocked. There is also a poster of the unused Cosmonaut character behind the Gungeoneers. That's more than likely just an Easter egg, but it could hint at him being playable, possibly. We also see the return of the Tinker up top, who may be a large part of why the game takes place so much on elevators. Below the Gungeoneers, we see the Drunkard return, as well as a glammed up version of Frightful and the Grey Mouser, implying their hunting challenges will return. We also see a jukebox that may or may not be usable, as well as a poster of Black Stash, which could just be another poster on the wall, or could signify which character you beat in the game with, this being Convict's poster. We also see the return of credits in the upper left, but there are no normal NPCs that you would spend those at. There is, however, a new NPC on the right that is almost surely the hat vendor mentioned in the article, which you can likely spend your credits on. Hats could modify the game in some way, or could easily just be cosmetic. Anyway, that is a lot of video for 30 seconds of footage. But that is all I've got for now. I'm excited to see more about this game as it is revealed. And if you are new here, hey, consider subscribing, because I put out Enter the Gungeon videos every single day. In addition to that, I showcase all kinds of other cool roguelikes you may be interested in if you're interested in Enter the Gungeon or Exit the Gungeon. I'm definitely going to be covering a lot of Exit the Gungeon when that comes out as well, as soon as I organize how to record that. Shouldn't be too bad. But that is going to do it. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you. See you next time.